All right. If I may have your awareness, please. Good morning, everybody. It's Easter. If you can hear me, wave to me. There are 8 of you. Hello, John. Thank you. So let's come on in here. Good morning. My name is Nick Siegel, and I have the glorious honor this Easter morning to kind of move things along, as it were. So we are going to start by calling in the light, as we do in the MSIA tradition. If you can hear me first and foremost, and you don't know what calling in the light from our vernacular is, just raise your hand. There's not one person, so I don't need to explain that. We're just going to keep going. What? You're just listening. That's okay. Okay, good. So let's start by calling in the light. If you'd all close your eyes and just come present in this moment on your breath. Breathe in this glorious air on this beautiful day. And Father, Mother, God, we are here with you, before you, and we ask for a clearing at this time. Any distraction, any negativity, anything that would keep us from remembering and claiming our divinity, Father, we give it up to you, so that in this moment, as we come present, as we follow the rising and falling of our breath, we connect back to that source, that loving essence of who we are, connected to the Christ on this day of Easter, the rising. And we ask to be filled, surrounded, and protected by this protective, beautiful light. We call forward the presence of the mystical traveler, the preceptor consciousness, the Christ consciousness. And from that place, may we share our divinity, our loving, our light, with all that we see and touch, for we all are one. We send the light to John Roger, and we send the light to John Morton. And we claim that light for ourselves in each and every moment. We are so blessed. And for this and so much more, we give our thanks. Berush Beshan. Anai Hu. Anai Hu. So once again, if you're looking for the audio, we in English are at 94.3, and in Spanish, please speak the Spanish to those that will understand it, 89.5. So we are here celebrating Easter under the auspice of MSIA, the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness. And every day I get a loving each day quote, as I'm sure the vast majority of you do. And I'd like to read you this morning's loving each day from a quote from John Rogers, one of his wonderful books. And it speaks to really, I think, the essence of our focus. And I thought it was so timely, so I'm going to read that to you. There is no ritual you must perform to become spiritual. There is no prescribed way you must behave to be spiritual. You are spiritual. You are a being of spirit. It is your essence, your greatest reality. So from that place, what that means to me is that I am learning through these teachings of MSIA and through this camaraderie, through all of the great works that we do through PTS and Insight and the University of Santa Monica, all of these wonderful resources. I'm learning to connect back into that essence of who I am and to claim that. And today is just another demonstration of that, and soon we'll hear from John Morton, the spiritual director of MSIA, as he shares his heart. And I think at the end of the day, the magnificence of who we are is our ability to share our hearts. And at MSIA, we learn about claiming that and giving it away. So from my perspective, that to me is right now the movement of spiritual inner awareness. John Roger, as I've mentioned, is the founder of MSIA, and he passed over into spirit in October of 2014, and yet his teachings are with us this day, and his presence and spirit are with us this day. And taking up the mantle and guiding us and supporting us all is John Morton, and as I said, we will hear from him in a moment. He is a dear friend to all of us, and while we may not all personally know him and just go up to him and say, what's going on in this moment, he lives in our hearts, and he carries forth the most exquisite message, and that is the claiming of our loving heart and up to soul transcendence, which is ultimately the message and the quest and the intention of why we're all here on this planet, is to transcend back into our souls and to the heart of God. So at this time, we've got some talent coming up. So I would like to invite Clara Beatriz Jansky and Jason Jansky. I got that right, didn't I, Clara? I nailed that one? Okay, I'm still working on it. I've got more time, I guess. So while we get set up, I'd like to make a couple of announcements, and I'm going to pop this off so that I can give them the space to get ready. You'll notice behind in the middle tables, behind the first row of chairs, there are flower arrangements, and you can do headdresses and for the kids and for yourselves, and it's a wonderful creative expression. So take full advantage of expressing your creativity through flowers, and that's available to us all. And one other announcement, we have our conference coming up, and that will be in July, and that will be at the Four Seasons in Westlake, and it is the conference of the celebration of the Year of the Sound Current. So I think we all know the glory of conference and coming together in communion, and so we invite you all to sign up and be a participant with that, because there's great joy there.
It's all about the Christ and who we are in the Christ. So, and waking up to the Christ. So, hit it, baby. Desperté otra vez al océano tierno de amor que hay en mí. Desperté otra vez a la dicha y belleza en mi ser y en ti. Y esta es la historia de un hombre y su gloria. Andar el camino de Dios en su sino. Cristo adentro, Cristo afuera, Cristo en mil tiempos, Cristo es la era del amor, de la paz, del saber, Cristo en mí y alrededor, gracia de Dios, llévame a Dios, tennos en Dios. I woke up once again to the ocean of loving and caring within. I woke up once again to the beauty and joy of my heart and my being. And this is the story for all us creation. Christ within me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ beneath me and above, on my right, on my left, Christ everywhere and around, guiding us home, taking me home, taking us home, taking me home, taking us home. Cristo adentro, Cristo afuera, Cristo en mil tiempos, Cristo es la era del amor, de la paz, del saber, Cristo en mí y alrededor, gracia de Dios, llévame a Dios, tennos en Dios.
So who's ready for the Easter Bunny? Okay, good. I like it. I like it. So we have just had an update. Easter Bunny is definitively on his way. He's working hard to get here, and we have every faith that he will be here. So kids, hold the focus, hold the dream. Easter Bunny is on his way. Can you not hear me now? Have I, yes? Someone can't hear. Do you need a, okay, very good. So, there is another Easter Bunny in our midst, and he's wearing yellow today. And he comes in many colors, in many shapes, forms, and sizes. He's been known to hit golf balls a long way. He is known to look in our eyes and be right there with us and love us up so exquisitely. He is our dear friend. He is also the mystical traveler, and that in and of itself is worthy of our attention as we come together and we support him and we love him. And what is going to happen is he'll start running up here in about 4, 3. John Morton, would you please run to this? Oh, and you have friends? You have a guest? Oh, well, let's welcome John Morton and Lee Taylor Young Morton wearing a very sporting outfit that I'm sure we'll hear about.
I think a lot of you who are like intelligence, that you figure these things out, you observe things that you knew long ago that she's a battery for the mystical traveler. And so that's always part of it. Then I just get myself all revved up and recharged in the energy field. Yes, but then I wanted to show you another thing that revs up. Vintage. This is vintage from, early days of Insight. So it's on display today, and it's also versatile.
It says John Staff, 1978?
Well, that's when Insight actually got going, yes. Yeah. So, but I don't remember exactly when, but maybe 1979. So it's around. It's on its way, I'm sure, to the Smithsonian Institute one day because they'll want to have it.
The MSIA Smithsonian. Are you?
There are people here who have gathered, and I'm going to do something that we can all do in our life, and you can move things. Like you can rearrange things in your life, even if it's for decorating purposes, just to make it something you like more. So watch this. There's a wall of light and batteries back there, mostly in chairs. And I'm going to bring you forward like Like I'm Mother May I, or I have Mother May I right here. Yes, I would like you to come closer.
Oh, good.
And actually get up, move the chair. Like dare to move that chair closer. Fill up this space in here, the people that wanted to. And then if you're on the ground in that beautiful space that was created this morning to sit on the sand, then there's space available up here as well if you'd like to move up. Because part of it is I want to see you.
And over here.
And I want to connect to you. And just a reminder, if there's speakers near you, I don't know if they're up at full volume, but there's an opportunity too. I looked over and last check where I'm pointing, there are more of these kinds of things where you could actually hear what's being said instead of showing your superpowers of being able to read lips at a long distance, which is a great power. And now that we have those who are near and dear to us, close, I want you to demonstrate that you're not just a great battery, but you're a great transmitter, and call us into a blessing.
Okay.
She didn't know this was coming, so now we get to find out how alive is she in the Christ, in the mystical
boy.
traveler consciousness. Watch and listen.
Father, Mother, God, we all claim that we are the Christ, that we are rising and we are risen. As we call ourselves forward now into the light of the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, that surrounds us, blesses, protects, and anoints us, now and forevermore. And we ask for our beloved mystical traveler and preceptor consciousness. And we love you, JR, and we know once again that you are enjoying this day with us. We're so grateful for this traveler, John Morton, for the Christ again. May we celebrate who we are as the Christ, that there is joy in this, that there is the optimism of the new day and the new birth. We ask evermore for more blessings to be showered upon us this day, that we share it with everyone, that we see, that we touch, that we smile, that we embrace, and we include, all in this loving. Berush Beshan.
Berush Beshan. And you're welcome to stay up here if you want. But, okay. Aha.
Oh, thank you. I do that.
It works just like that in very simple ways. So I have an active metaphor for us today, and it has to do with seeing the light and listening to the sound current, that buzz in the sky. And what if the sound current, when we first encounter it and the level we're in, sounds like noise? And the secret being to listen to the noise until we find the beauty within the noise. That we would hear something very delightful, something that soothes our heart, comforts us. And that I want you to consider, compared to what the light is, up to now you have yet to see it in the full power of what it is, in the full brilliance of what it is. And to consider that one more time you've shown up to see the light, that you've heard about it from the elders, you've heard about it from those who claimed the experience. Here comes another round of the sound current. Huh? a little different rhythm and vibration. And that those of us that are here at the beach, and I know there are those who are joining us online, and I'm just going to check to see if is that later that they join us? Okay. So even in how that all works in timelines, that the opportunity is to look up. And if we do, and I'm not telling you to look straight at the sun, because I think you know by now your retinas, amongst other parts, and you wouldn't necessarily deal with that well. But when I look up, it is bright, like it's difficult to look straight into it. And to consider that up to now it's been behind the clouds of our unconsciousness. There's a nice way to relate to it. And it's coming into the clear. And part of it is because we are willing ourselves to come into the clear, that we would not have anything that is not necessary, that in any way would block or obstruct our light, be in the way. But if it serves the purpose, because those who are also in the process of seeing the light even would find your light too bright. So that we would have some kind of compassion, that we would allow ourselves to be dimmed. I know those of you who've been around a while in MSI, and even if you've just been here, you may run into when John Roger talked about sharing the light and how important it is to consider who you're dealing with and their ability to be with the light, and to in some way hold it back at times for the purposes of being together. That if we got too close to what is going on as I speak, and once again I demonstrate, like, wouldn't it be nice if I could claim like I ordered it up to do this, that it would kind of come from behind the clouds, or the clouds would move. And it's even more bright now. I mean, I'd like to say that I'm also, somehow acting this out, but this is the real thing. To look at it is difficult to keep these lids open. So in whatever you have seen of the light up to now, just consider that the opportunity to see it in its greater brilliance, its brightness, is with you, that we are a path of the light. The Christ is the light. And I quote, "I am the light." And now I'm not quoting. I am the light. So I have that willingness to claim myself as the light. And that whatever part of me cannot stand into that, cannot step into it, is unwilling to share that or hold it back, that I call that into the light. That who I am is willing to be the light. So I invite all of us to consider that as what's going on right now, that you're in a blessing of the light and the loving that is that light, and the vibration we call the sound that is the light. And if you're listening to what I'm hearing, it sounds like a wave. It sounds like water cascading. And then there are other sounds. I'm hearing a crying child. Anybody else hearing that? And there's something about that cry that it moves us, and it's meant to move us. That we are designed to hear every cry. And to consider God is a consciousness that hears every cry and responds fully to whatever we cry out for. So then consider right now, what would you cry out for? And are you crying out? Let's consider also that when we cry, it does not have to be for something that is difficult or painful, but even if it is, that it's okay to cry out. It's okay to let what is in our heart come forth. And if there is something heavy upon our heart, something that feels like a pain or a suffering, a weight, that we would understand our heart is meant to expand with every beat, with every wave. It's reaching out. It's reaching out all the way it can, that we would open up the space and make room for greater light that is within us. Now, in some ways, it's clouding up again. So perhaps that's an opportunity to question ourselves. Are we living correctly? Are we in some way calling darkness into our presence? Something that would obstruct what we want to be? And let's just consider life is like that. That there's going to be the light and the dark. There's going to be up and down. There's going to be what we would consider good and bad, or this thing called evil. Let me remind you that John Roger referred to evil as that which is unnecessary, that which doesn't serve. In my life, in my independent survey, it's ongoing, there's been many opportunities to be aware of when I felt there was something wrong, there was something bad, there was something that should not be. And when I came into the light of my consciousness, which is understanding, which is seeing what is in the way it is, there is no such thing as it should not be. There are things that appear to be what is not. And that we may believe that, we may consider that when we've done something we did not expect, or others have done things we did not expect or want, that in some way is an error. And if that's the case, I think this human condition has proven to us it's full of things we didn't expect. It's full of things that we didn't want. But it's also full of everything we need, full of everything we do want, and that when we embrace what it is, there's something magical about that moment. And we can't really get enough of that we would embrace someone for who they are. Practically, maybe it's from a long ways away. That if there are people doing what we don't understand, what we don't like, what we don't agree with, that we can still look upon them as somehow showing us what needs to change. I remember a moment walking out of the Mandeville door, meaning where JR lived, with JR. And I don't remember the subject, but the subject was, hey, JR, I don't like this. And I don't agree with this. And I think something should be done about this. And he stopped. And he looked at me, well, then are you willing to do something about that? And that stopped me. He said, if you're not willing to do something about it, then you might just want to shut up. I said something about that yesterday. Watch my mouth. Watch what I say. Watch what I think. And then it changed my life to move into, if I'm wanting to change something and I'm wanting something to be different, then I need to be willing to do something about that. Or be quiet. And perhaps what it's doing is teaching me something so that I can understand what's there that's bringing about what we need to experience, what's bringing about what we need to learn. And that if we want to change, the best way is to be the difference, be the change, be what we want others to do, demonstrate what we would like to experience from others. There's a joyful message here. And what I consider it to be is that in my heart, in who I am, it's big enough to love each and every one of you exactly as you are. And here's the image I'm seeing. Even if you're throwing me your feces and trying to hit me with them, which I'm borrowing a page from a story in Jared's life, when he's willing to confront such a person and deal with them, to get up close and personal with them when that was what they were expressing. And the story goes, that person changed and they transformed, so they found better things to do. So when it is something that we realize could be better, that we have that opportunity to show what better is. And if we don't know how to do that, if we don't know how to be peaceful toward our neighbor or toward the one next to us, whoever that might be. And these pigeons over here, maybe you can take a moment with the camera lens. Yeah, you guys can come on over. Come on over. That's right. Come on over. I'm a nice guy. Let's see how close they can get here. I'm a pigeon tamer. You guys, I might have something, I might not, but I might. And just come on over here. That's pretty close. We have a feral cat that's visiting our home, where Lee and I live, and we call him Jasper. We're not even sure if it's a him, but I think Jasper can go both ways. You could use it regardless of your polarity. And he's still working up to letting us come close. But what we found out is that we can work him over with food. So we've been doing that. So with somebody that is really having a difficult time, just consider that if we treat them the way we would want to be treated when we're having our most difficult moment, that could be transformational. There's a story that I heard, and I think his name is Rick Warren. He's a minister, and he wrote The Purpose-Driven Life. Just seeing if I get any nodding heads here. Okay, I'm getting some nodding heads. And a woman was reading that, and I've read part of the book, and has very beautiful reference points on how to take the best of who we are, the spiritual nature, the Christ nature of who we are, and express that into the world. And it does it in kind of a lesson plan of sorts. And a woman was reading the book, and she was on a chapter, and I may not quite have this accurate, but let's say it's close enough, that had to do with compassion. And what happened to her was a man who was arrested and being brought before a judge because he had murdered a policeman. And he had done something violent that resulted in the death of a policeman, whatever you call that. And he was being brought into the court to face a hearing. And he took whoever it was that was escorting him and shot them. So he did it again. And then he was on the run. So he hijacked some kind of car and went to some neighborhood and found himself breaking in by force with a gun with this woman's apartment. And then she realized immediately the chapter she was on in her book, and that in her consciousness she considered just possibly God created this moment for her compassion. So as he was very angrily, harshly, threatening her and telling her what to do, she asked him if he was hungry. Just turned out he had the awareness he was hungry. And I don't know how that exchange went. It might have been like, yeah, make me some food. Yeah. And so she did. And in the process, she treated him with kindness, with just a kind of thing like, how do you like your eggs? Or would you like some toast? Would you like butter on that toast? These kinds of things. What would you like? How can I help you? And that was a transformation. And within hours, he decided to turn himself in, to face whatever he was facing. And one part of that was he realized how desperate he was. And that's what led him to do the things that he'd done. And at some level, I just trust that whatever is serving his soul is being done, that I would ask us, and I don't know how to tell you his name, I don't have that, but let's just consider the light does and knows who he is, and that we would send a blessing wherever he is, even if we found out he's not in this world now, that the light would find him, and that he would come into a greater understanding of who he is and what he's meant to become. That each one of us has had a moment when we were at our worst. And the light is always a moment that brings us in to what we need. Something that can be like what Saul met up with on the way to Damascus. That he was struck by light and a voice asking him, why do you persecute me? And it was a blinding light. So in that moment he was blinded. But what he had been doing is killing the so-called Christians, those who were the followers of Jesus. Even though he was Jewish, he was killing the Jewish people. Because at that moment, Jesus was Jewish, and he still is, if you look at that. He's still Jewish. And maybe, some of his relatives are saying, I'm wondering when you're going to come back, into respecting your ancestry and maybe doing an intervention on Jesus to bring him back. That's a kind of funny thought for me. I haven't had that one before, an intervention on Jesus. And let's just consider what took place in that life was something that transcended, something that moved on into a greater light, into a greater loving, into a greater manifestation of who we are. That we're all in that. We're in that movement. It doesn't require rules and regulations. What it requires is that we recognize who we are and have a willingness to embrace who we are in such a way as there's no judgment. So there's a challenge. Maybe it's not a challenge. So pardon me if I in some way judge you that you are still judging and you're not judging. That you don't even know what judging is anymore. In your innocence, there is no judgment. There is only forgiveness. There's only understanding. But there's a willingness to raise up those who are ready to come up, are willing to come up, are in the way that is up. That if we were going on as this group of love, light, and sound, and you were unable to move for yourself physically, that we have whatever it takes to pick you up and carry you and take you there. There's a beautiful, I think it's a moment of peace. It may just be one of those moments in Jer's many sharings where he tells us, I'll take you there. And maybe it was after, is that the Staples sisters? You see how my mind works. But there is a song, I'll Take You There. And to consider we have a consciousness that walks with us, that breathes us right where we are, that never abandons us, so we can always call upon it to lift us up when we don't know how to get up ourselves. That whatever it is, and if we consider we've done something where that consciousness of the beloved would judge us, just whisk that out of you right now. Make it go poof. How do I do that? Just say light. Just say beloved. Whatever name it goes by. Listen to this one. Jesus the Jew. Even in that name. That consciousness that is of that nature. It knows who it is. It knows where it comes from. How about Jesus the Neanderthal? Well, it's possible. Jared was someone who told us he's done it all. And I was there on September 24th, 1983 at 2101 Wilshire. And I made that very clear for the group. And in the group, were people that who were calling him into question. Calling him that you're a fraud, that you're some kind of perverse person. That how could you be a spiritual guide? How could you be someone who is what you say you are? Lives what you say you are to us? And what he did was he basically said, I want you to consider that whatever you're accusing me of, whatever the accusations are, that I've done it. So if that's what you want to have something where I'm convicted of the worst thing that you could imagine, then consider I have done it. And there was someone on the microphone with him who said, hey, Jared, that's not fair. That's like a psychological game you're playing here. Like you're not really confessing. You're just saying, well, I did it all, so go ahead and convict me. That's when I knew how ridiculous it is to be in the judgment business. And there's fault, and there's condemnation. So I invite all of us to get out of that business. Pick it up right now where you take whatever commitment it is there, not one that you're going to beat yourself up with later and feel guilty and feel like, there I go again, judging, and I can't help it, and I just can't do this pure thing. I can't do this Christ thing where I love everybody and forgive everybody. I don't. I see their faults. I see their frailties. I see their hypocrisies. And what the lower nature does, all of us know what that is. So it's no big deal. It's very small. It's so small it's nothing. So have the wit to let it go. That you don't have to do that, so don't do it. And even if you do, then you know what you have in that moment as your next responsibility. To let go of the judgment, let go of that thing that would come down. And find some way to love whatever it is, love whoever it is. Reach out. Maybe say a kind word even if you don't mean it. Just go ahead and say it anyway. And if someone says, I don't think you mean that, you could say, I'm working on it. I want to mean it. I want to say you're a good person and have that experience. And let's consider that if we do that with all our heart, with all our body, with all our mind, as much as we can, that God comes in and matches that. And it comes in this presence we know is the Christ. And it's okay if you say, well, is that the Messiah? Is that the Avatar? Is that the Sadhu? The name isn't really important. It's that which is our anointing, our rising up in our consciousness, that we would uphold it. And consider that we can come into the altar, the Holy of Holies, just as we are, that we have the willingness to step into it, to come forth. It's doing it again, huh? So it's brighter now. I see evidence that the Easter Bunny has been here already and manifested whatever it is. I know why the Easter Bunny is associated with the Christ, because there's a miraculous nature in the Easter Bunny. It lays eggs. Yeah, there's a story about that today. If you watch CBS Sunday Morning, like I do, they were talking about that the Easter Bunny was a particular rabbit who laid eggs. Even if people couldn't figure that out, but the children somehow enjoyed it, and that these eggs came colored in very bright, beautiful colors. Anybody do any of that when you were younger? Make the eggs colored? Anybody do that today? See if that tradition's still going around? Well, I think I saw a hand back there. We are marked by how we treat one another. There's no way around it. And most importantly, I hope you get this, if you didn't already somehow know this reality, that we're mostly marked by how we treat ourselves. That we are those who are born the Lord. and hear those words, like not just born of, like a split, a partiality, a lesser form, but born the fullness, the entirety. I was talking yesterday about the minuteness of oxygen, such that I was asking some of you, have you ever seen an oxygen molecule? Well, let's just consider we know empirically, by some kind of evidence that we would accept and trust, that we do. So that we don't need to see it in a physically conscious way, however you would say that. Well, is that mental? Is that imaginative? Well, we could, and maybe some of you might say, you know, I actually have seen an oxygen molecule. I don't know how I saw it. I saw it. And I know what it looks like. And there are scientists that can tell that kind of story, that when they were doing what they could to solve the riddles and the puzzles that we find in nature, that it was their imagination, it was some quirk occurrence that let them know what it is, such that when they checked it out and acted as if it would meet up with us. My mind doesn't really know how to say this, but that's how our quantum physics folks, by whatever name they go by these days, I just decided, you know, like when we couldn't use janitor anymore, I just said, that's it. I don't want to call those people sanitation engineers. What's wrong with a janitor? That they know that we can see the evidence by the way it tracks into our reality, so that we know the oxygen, we know how far we are from the sun, we know the speed of light. And in case you haven't heard, there's a discovery in some place like CERN, Switzerland, whatever they're doing there as scientific experimentation, that there's something faster than the speed of light. You see, and then, but what do we do about all the books that declare that the absolute, or what do we do with Einstein's theory of relativity? Well, is it okay if the speed of light changes its speed? Does it have to be fixed? Could it be ordered up in some way that there's an opportunity to see beyond it into something greater, something faster? And it just might take our willingness to play in another dimension, to let go of this one, so that we're aware there's a dimension where all is loved. Every day it's beautiful, because every day is all day long, whatever that is. And I just see that we're in a place where if we have the willingness to do what we can to meet these challenges, just to step into them, just to have a turning point where we would be kind rather than a critical remark or a sarcastic remark. And even if that's how I'm working out my joy, would you let me just do it through sarcasm and cynicism? Because right now, that's the best I can do. That would say, yeah, I'll sit down, I'll watch your stand-up comedic routine. Because you're working out whatever that is, so that laughter is a result, even if you're the last one to laugh. Light to Gary Shandling. You know, he was with, who's the comedian that has his own show for years, so that he's Seinfeld. Thank you, Jerry Seinfeld. But then Jerry Seinfeld has a thing like Go With Me in a Car, before the other late night guy did it where he sings in the car. But anyway, so he had Gary Shandling in the car a while back. And he was joking about his death, and then how he'd want to have his death, and now that's playing out, so that it's almost like, well, were you joking, or did you know what you were talking about? Well, based on results, he knew what he was talking about. That he was speaking from the other side. That now we're in the other side of the timeline. And when we move it out into where does this go, what's the end? We all live happily ever after. You know, whoever wrote that had something figured out for us. And so my point is, well, if we know the end is we all live happily ever after, why don't we just do that now? Why don't we just declare it's the end? Like, that's an interesting idea. Like, what if a play had that whole thing, like, we're all ready for 3 acts, but it ends in the middle of the 2nd act, even before the intermission. That the play is about living our life in a better way. So in some way it reflects what we need to understand, what we need to learn about ourselves, such that we go out and do it. So when we leave the theater, we're taking advantage of what was shown to us and revealed to us. Some of you did that in the toothpick game. You just saw the answer. That's what happened to me. I saw it before I lifted a toothpick. And then I just lifted all the toothpicks, and then somebody came around and said, that's it. But then there were those who were convinced that they had the solution. Form 2 squares that do not touch by removing 8 toothpicks. And there's a way you can do that and have 4 squares. In case you didn't know that. So if it ever becomes form 4 squares by removing 8 toothpicks, I just want you to know there's a way to do that. That's a bonus. That's a bonus for showing up today. How do we do it? I'll even give you that. You move the vertical line and the horizontal line of toothpicks. There's 4 going on the vertical, 4 going across on the horizontal. Then you have 8 squares. Is that fair? Did I just ruin it for whoever's going to do the examination? Well, a teacher is a shortcut. So if someone can teach you in such a way as that you can apply what they know, you can move into that, so you don't have to do the experience. Like if I were you, I wouldn't jump over that cliff. Well, I'm going to go find out for myself. You see all those bodies and bones down there? They're telling a story. But if that's what you want to create for yourself, no, I think I can fly. I remember J.R. saying quite often, you win. When he would say that, I was like, I'm not having an experience I just won. I'm having an experience like I'm worried. Something's about to happen I'm not going to like. So when I got to know that better, then I would basically say, can we reconsider this? And sometimes it was, no, you won. Don't you know you won? It's like, no, I'm not having that experience right now, Jared. I'm having an experience like I didn't win, but I'd like to win. Can we reconsider this? What I found with Jared is that if you were persistent, if you held in there was a way. And I love to tell this story. When I first came to Mandeville to work with him, and then that turned out that I was living Well, I was living in the motorhome for a while, but then eventually I was living in one of the rooms in the house. There were 4 dogs, so there were 2 Weimaraners, Player and Zotar. Then there were 2 poodles, Pookie and Dude. And then there was a ritual. It happened right away. When I was fortunate enough to finally go into the house with Jer, the dogs would kind of do a thing like a welcome home celebration moment. You know, they're wagging, and Zotar was very loud. He had a way of singing and like sounding like he was wooing at the moon kind of thing. In any case, there was another part of the ritual where he'd say, okay, all dogs outside, open up the sliding glass door out to the back, and then all the dogs would go outside and sit on the porch. And when he called their name, they knew their name, and then the other dogs knew their name too, so that, you know, when Jared called out like Pookie, the other dogs like, you gonna go? It's because one of my thoughts was, when did Jer have time to learn how to train dogs? I never heard about this. I never learned how he learned how to train dogs. He just somehow had a few tricks. When Pookie would come into the house, he'd ask a question. Pookie, where's the safest place in the world? And Pookie was sitting on the floor right at his feet, and he's like a toy poodle, miniature poodle. And he'd jump up, and Jared would catch him in his hands and then pull him to his chest. And then Pookie would lay his head on Jared's heart. And at first I was just impressed by that. That was kind of amazing that Pookie would do that. And then one day it dawned on me what he was asking. And I think Pookie said, okay, Jer, I'll do that. You know, I'll do the trick, because I already know where the safest place in the world is. But these guys, I don't think they know. And I found that if I was willing to bring him whatever it is, and sometimes it was the last thing I wanted to tell Jer, you know, something that I consider was a mistake or an error. And around Jer, there was discipline. There were consequences. So it wasn't always like, oh, that's okay. You know, sometimes you're out of the line of communication. First time he said that, I didn't even know what he's talking about. But what I found out is, like, I don't want you taking any messages from people. No notes, no memos. If someone says, please tell Jared this, you can't do it. Tell him I cannot take that message. You need to do that with somebody else. When what I was doing for Jared, that was like, I can't do my job. So it didn't really feel very good. And then I tried to explain myself like, hey, JR, you know, I forgot because, you know, when we got home, there was this other thing, and, you know, I got caught up in that, and I forgot. He reminded me, what if I forgot who I am? What if I forgot the niches and they just all dropped? I don't know if that was a real question but I just got, okay, I get it. There are some things I need to learn how to remember. I need to learn how to be awake. I also tried to say, why don't you do this with the other staff? I'm observing that they forget things, and you don't do the same discipline with them. You can imagine how far I got with that. It's none of your business. I'm doing this with you. Do you want to work here? Do you want to work with me? There are other people who want to work with me. You want me to get somebody else to? No, Jared. No. I'm laughing now. What I found out is that this consciousness of who we are, this consciousness of the beloved, this mystical traveler consciousness, is a consciousness that does love us always in all ways. There's no moment when it forgets that. So when we're in a moment where we've forgotten the divine, it is a moment to wake up. It's a moment to shift. Maybe it's a moment to say, I'm sorry. I'm not relating to you right now as the divine. Somehow I'm forgetting that you're divine, and I need to remember it. And that's on me. But while I'm working on it, maybe I'm going to get out of range. That I'm going to back off because I'm not handling how you are in such a way as I respond in kindness and in understanding in ways that are uplifting for us. So I'm just sculpting some of these things for us that in our way, maybe today with the way the light is right here on a beautiful day, when we have an opportunity to meet up with the Easter Bunny, amongst other things, that we just turn the light up in our own consciousness so we can meet up with it and look it directly in the eye. And here's something that may give you a little more understanding of who I am and what I've become. I don't think it's anything like bragging. I think it's more like a confession. But when I was a youngster, I'm just thinking when I was last doing this, let's say up to about the age 8, I used to try to look straight at the sun and keep my eyes open. And then one day someone said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm looking at the sun." "No, you're going to go blind." And I said, "Well, I haven't gone blind yet." But something about that in me, that consciousness that wants to see the light and look straight at it. And if I am uncomfortable and I'm disturbed by it and I don't seem to know how to handle it, I'm so grateful for that consciousness that it brought me here, that in some way I could share it with you so you don't have to go blind, but that you could learn that as we look into the light and we have that willingness to see the light, that in some way we're being transformed to what it is, and let it be marked that all of us are known for our lightness, for the consciousness there's joy, peace, and harmony, that it doesn't matter how well you've been doing that up to now. It's not an issue. So forget about what it has been before. You don't have to remember the past. It's already remembered perfectly for you. That when we come into the light, as JR told us in his own way, I don't have a memory. I don't remember. And I was around him a lot when it seemed like, well, you should. We just had that conversation. Then I realized he had better things to do, that other people like myself could remember things for him. And it was a pleasure and privilege to be in that position. To just, like, in a way, do what the mind would do to keep track of things so that he was free to roam and free to travel in the consciousness that would still be with us. And so let's consider this, that when he said he's done it all, that he's also seen the face of God. Beirish Beishan.
Thank you, John, so much. So please, just a reminder, please give John and Lee their space once we conclude. But there is more entertainment for you all. I'd like to bring up Makeda Bullock-Floyd. Let's please give her a wonderful, rousing round of applause. She is going to sing a song, Pai Jesus or Merciful Lord. And while she gets set up, the Easter Bunny, I have gotten an Easter Bunny alert. My phone is going crazy. It's just vibrating off the hook. So very close, kids. So stay close and pay attention, and the Easter Bunny will be here. So Makeda, it's all you. That was friggin' awesome. That was fantastic. Makeda, have you ever sung in front of this group before? Do it, Mom? Has Makeda ever sung in front of this group before? I'm getting no feedback. Yeah, no, oh, no, don't think so. That's the inaugural. That was phenomenal, phenomenal. Gang, it's Easter Bunny time. Easter Bunny is on site, and let's get him here. Oh my God, look, let's give the Easter Bunny a big hand. He's got friends and followers.
Ah, it's great to be here. Happy Easter. Oh, it's a beautiful day. Oh, I just hopped in from San Diego. Hi, Max. Oh, God bless you, Max. I love you. Oh, my. What a beautiful day. Ah, you know, this is my assistant, Betty Bunny. Can you check the ears, Betty?
Hi.
Thank you. She keeps my ears in place. Ah, well, how you doing, Neven? Say hi.
Hi.
Do you like the Easter Bunny?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I like you too. I love kids. And you know, folks, I know this is a gathering of MSIA. Is that right, Carol Jones? Yeah, MSIA. Well, I know you guys are focused on growth and spiritual enlightenment. Is that right? Yeah, me too. So is she. What's your name?
Angeline.
Angeline is too. And, you know, in MSIA, I know you do a lot of light body and things like that. How many of you know what light body is? Well, today, me and the kids, hi, Guy, we want to invite you to participate in a sort of a bunny light body. It's very sacred. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand up and place a light column right in front of you, about 4 inches in front of you. So go ahead and stand up. And we're going to do something very sacred. So call in the light for yourself. And it's called the hokey pokey. Yeah. So you're going to be placing different parts of your body into the light column right in front of you. So we'll start out. You ready? Everybody wave your hands if you hear me. All right. We're going to put some light into us. Hi, buddy. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. All right. You put your right hand in, you take your right hand out, you put your right hand in and you shake it all about. You fill your hand with light and you turn all around. That's what it's all about. You put your left hand in, you take your left hand out. You put your left hand in the light and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your right foot in, you take your right foot out. You put your right foot in and you fill your foot with light. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. One more foot. You put your left foot in, you take your left foot out. You put your left foot in and you shake it all about. You fill yourself with light and you turn all around. That's what it's all about. Now your whole body. This is the last one, so really go for it. You put your whole self in, you put your whole self out. You put your whole self in and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you fill yourself with light. That's what it's all about. Yeah! God bless us all. Come on, kids. We'll go over here and we'll play some games. We'll have an Easter egg hunt. Adults, you can come too. God bless and happy Easter.